In the early hours of a chilly November morning in 1984, a catastrophic event unfolded in the bustling settlement of San Juanico, just north of Mexico City. It was an ordinary day that quickly spiraled into extraordinary tragedy, marking one of the deadliest industrial disasters in history. This is the story of the San Juanico disaster, a devastating explosion at an liquid petroleum gas facility that claimed hundreds of lives, reshaped an entire community, and ignited a firestorm of controversy over industrial safety and accountability. Liquid petroleum gas, LPG, was an essential fuel in Mexico during the 1980s, widely used in homes for cooking and heating, as well as by various industries. LPG is a mix of different gases that, when compressed, turn into liquid form, making it easier to transport in canisters or through pipelines. Stored in secure, pressurized containers and handled carefully, LPG is as safe as other common fuels. However, if the pressure is lost, LPG reverts to a highly flammable gas, posing significant dangers. Since LPG has no smell, a scent is added so leaks can be detected and addressed promptly. Pemex, Petróleos Mexicanos, the state-owned oil company of Mexico, was the main provider of LPG. In 1962, Pemex built an LPG plant near the existing community of San Juanico Ixhuatepec. Shortly after, the area saw rapid growth with the establishment of bottling plants, distribution centers, and industries utilizing LPG, leading to a population surge in San Juanico. The town expanded, with many new homes constructed nearby, accommodating about 40,000 residents with another 100,000 in the surrounding hills. The housing was basic, small, single-story structures made of wood and brick, topped with corrugated metal roofs. Some homes were built incredibly close to the LPG plant, just 130 meters, 430 feet away, separated only by a fence and a railway track. The facility originally housed spherical storage tanks, with two larger ones added in 1981. The spherical shape of these tanks is ideal for maintaining even pressure, preventing stress at any single point. Besides these, there were numerous smaller tanks, nicknamed bullet tanks due to their resemblance to bullets, and locally called sausages for their shape. The LPG supply for the plant was fed through 3 underground pipes connecting it to a nationwide network, with this plant alone handling a third of Mexico City's LPG needs. Despite its importance, safety issues had been a concern. Before 1984, a safety committee noted that up to 40% of the plant's safety features, including fire suppression systems and alarms, were malfunctioning or intentionally turned off. They also found inaccuracies in pressure readings and a lack of necessary pressure relief valves throughout the facility. At around 5:40 a.m. on November 19th, operators at the San Juanico LPG plant noticed a drop in pressure in one of the pipes, an alarming sign that often indicates a leak. At that time, the plant held about 12,000 cubic meters, or 423,000 cubic feet, of LPG, a quantity of fuel with a potential energy 5 times greater than that of the atomic bomb dropped on Hiroshima in 1945. Concerned about the implications of a leak, operators quickly set to work to identify the issue. After 10 minutes of urgent investigation, they deduced that a pump within the system must have ruptured, although they couldn't determine its exact location. As they continued their search, the LPG that had leaked out, now depressurized, turned back into a gas and formed a large cloud that drifted across the plant. This cloud soon reached an area where waste gas was routinely burned off, a process known as flaring. Upon reaching this ignition source, the vast cloud of LPG ignited. The initial explosion was so powerful that it was heard in nearby Mexico City. It produced a massive fireball and inflicted severe damage throughout the LPG facility, particularly to the piping and storage tanks. Most notably, the supports for many of the tanks, which had not been properly fireproofed, failed. This caused the tanks to collapse. Approximately 90 seconds after the initial blast, the first boiling liquid expanding vapor explosion, BLEVE, occurred. A bleave happens when a pressurized liquid inside a tank is heated beyond its boiling point, causing it to vaporize rapidly. This sudden expansion of gas can violently rupture the tank, leading to an explosion. In this tragic event, the initial explosion heated the LPG stored within the tanks to temperatures well beyond their boiling point, causing the tanks to rupture one by one. As each tank exploded, it released a torrent of gaseous LPG which, upon ignition, led to massive, ground-shaking explosions. The severity of the situation was highlighted by the first boiling liquid expanding vapor explosion, bleave, at San Juanico, which registered 0.5 on the Richter scale. Even a pilot on a Pan Am flight nearing Mexico City noticed the blast, mistaking it for a nuclear explosion as he observed fireballs shooting 300 meters or 980 feet into the air and lingering there for up to 20 seconds. From 5:40 a.m. to 7:01 a.m., a total of 8 BLEVs occurred, with both the first and sixth explosions detectable on seismic scales. These major blasts were accompanied by continual smaller explosions that persisted until 11 a.m. Over 200 firefighters rushed to the scene, engaging in a relentless effort to put out fires and cool down the remaining tanks that were at risk of bursting. The dangerous proximity required to effectively cool these tanks meant that any additional explosions would likely have been fatal. Thankfully, their efforts were successful in preventing further explosions, particularly in the two largest spherical tanks. Rapidly responding to the crisis, within half an hour of the first explosion, Mexico's defense minister activated an emergency response plan. Soldiers, federal road patrol officers, ambulances, and volunteers quickly gathered at the disaster site. Air support was provided by 5 helicopters monitoring the area, while nearly 2,000 paramedics attended to the injured amidst chaotic conditions. The escape of many residents made it difficult for emergency services to navigate through congested roads. The devastation spread far beyond the immediate vicinity of the plant. Bullet tanks, propelled like missiles, traveled up to 1,200 meters or 3,900 feet from the plant before crashing down, their hot debris and residual LPG fueling secondary fires across a broad area. A secondary fire devastated a bottling plant located east of the main Pemex facility. This plant had stored hundreds of small LPG canisters, ready for transport. As the fire tore through, each canister exploded in a chain reaction of blasts. The highways surrounding the town were shut down to enable a mass evacuation. Approximately 200,000 people were forced to flee, walking along roads and railway tracks, trying to escape the looming threat. Elvira Castro Vasquez, a survivor, recalled the scene vividly. It looked like a pilgrimage. A lot of people escaped along the tracks. We walked in the direction of the Mexico City, borough Gustavo A. Madero, and people were saying, "This is the end of the world." City buses, repurposed to aid in the emergency, picked up many of the injured, ferrying them to hospitals. Others continued on foot, seeking medical help or merging with the shocked daily commuters on Mexico City's public transit system to find care. Many of those displaced by the disaster sought refuge at the Basilica of Our Lady of Guadalupe. Though the church had been closed due to structural concerns, it reopened to provide shelter for the injured and homeless. A community effort saw thousands bringing blankets, food, water, and other necessities to support those sheltered there, creating a temporary haven amidst the chaos. By 11 p.m., when the fires were finally put out, the devastation was clear: 150 homes completely destroyed and another 2,000 severely damaged. Official counts reported 272 fatalities, reflecting only those immediately identified. The real death toll was likely much higher. The intense fires had left many victims unrecognizable, effectively cremated by the blaze. Later estimates, considering subsequent deaths from injuries, suggested the number of lives lost could be anywhere from 500 to 2,000. Remarkably, only 5 of these were plant workers. The majority were residents and workers from the surrounding areas, many of whom were asleep with no warning of the impending disaster, leaving them no chance to escape. In the aftermath of the catastrophic explosion at San Juanico, initial reactions from government officials suggested the blame lay with one of the privately run processing facilities nearby, rather than with the state-owned Pemex operation. However, on December 22, 1984, the Attorney General released a report conclusively stating that the rupture occurred in a section of piping within the LPG facility, thus placing the responsibility squarely on Pemex. The official government investigation struggled to determine a precise cause for the disaster. Some industry commentators speculated that a disgruntled employee might have been to blame, although noted maintenance deficiencies at the plant were ruled out as direct causes of the catastrophe. An independent investigation conducted by TNO, a Dutch applied science research organization, identified several critical issues. It pointed to the cramped layout of the plant, where tanks were closely packed together, as a significant factor that accelerated the spread of fire and subsequent explosions. It also criticized the proximity of residential housing to the LPG storage, labeling it as inherently risky. Moreover, the investigation highlighted the absence of essential pressure relief valves and the problematic continuation of LPG pumping into the facility up to an hour after the initial explosion, which greatly exacerbated the disaster. Dutch experts proposed that an excessive pressure buildup in a specific pipe might have triggered the leak, though this hypothesis was not widely accepted by the Mexican government. Following this disaster, the LPG industry both in Mexico and globally saw substantial safety improvements. The design and spacing of storage tanks in plants were re-evaluated, emergency protocols were revamped, and new monitoring systems were installed at numerous facilities to detect gas leaks more effectively. Due to the extensive damage, including the destruction of firefighting equipment in the initial blast, recommendations were made for emergency water lines to be buried underground to protect them from similar incidents in the future. Despite its magnitude, the San Juanico disaster remains relatively obscure outside of Mexico, overshadowed by other significant industrial accidents occurring around the same time, such as the notorious Union Carbide gas leak in Bhopal. In the wake of the San Juanico disaster, the Mexican government provided compensation, offering around $10,000 for each victim to the bereaved families. They also mandated that the majority of LPG-related industries relocate away from San Juanico, announcing plans to transform the explosion site into a memorial park. This decision initially brought some comfort to residents, who preferred not to live in the shadow of the hazardous LPG industry. However, the relief was short-lived as it emerged that the proposed park would not only encompass the Pemex property but also extend over the grounds of nearly 200 homes that had been destroyed in the blast. This revelation sparked outrage among the community. Over time, it also became apparent that despite promises to relocate the LPG facilities, some would remain, further fueling the residents' frustrations. Despite ongoing protests, construction of the memorial park commenced within just a week of the disaster, even as teams were still uncovering human remains among the debris. As a result of the park's construction, 167 families were displaced and relocated to a different town, where they were provided with new housing. Many of these families expressed dissatisfaction, finding the new homes too cramped for comfortable living. This rapid development led to criticism from local media, with the newspaper La Prensa remarking that the authorities had been quicker to obscure the aftermath of the explosion than to investigate its causes or accurately account for the casualties.